everybody, welcome back once again to no, I almost screwed that up. The Big Igloo Podcast. Oh, I almost said a different podcast that I do. We don't make edits here, all right? We don't believe in that. This is the Big Igloo Podcast. It's raw. It's live. That's why you tune in. You listen for the mistakes and all that. Smart theology, dumb dad jokes. And Travis, you said, of course, we're plowing through the book of Ruth. You like how I did that?
That's good.
Because I know he said he's got a farmer joke. Yeah. And this is an agrarian society. Boaz is out in the field with Ruth and stuff. So
this is a little bit more farm animal-ish, but whatever.
Okay, yeah.
What farm animal is best at keeping time?
What farm animal is best at keeping time? Ooh, I don't think I know this one.
A watchdog.
Oh my goodness.
And what do you call a horse that lives next door?
A horse that lives next door. I don't know.
A neighbor.
Ladies and gentlemen, just tuning in to hear Travis do that is worth it. All right, so your day is instantly better. All right.
Goodness.
Oh man, that makes me groan. So, all right, thank you, Travis. Thanks
welcome.
for bringing the dad joke game there, and we are gonna go back to the field, so to speak, here in the book of Ruth. Hey, Travis, why don't you catch us up? I mean, on our hero Ruth here.
Yeah.
What's going on in the story quickly? You know,
yes.
Obviously, our listeners can go back and listen to those first couple episodes. But.
So obviously, Naomi, an Israelite woman, marries, and this family basically, there's a famine in the land.
Yep.
They
get out of Dodge.
They leave and go to Moab. Moab. Yeah, there you go. I was gonna say Moabite. That's a person from Moab, and everybody, like, basically all the men die.
Yeah,
and it's very tragic.
Yeah.
And so Naomi is stuck in a different country.
Yep.
With basically as a widow.
Yep.
With basically the wives of her sons.
Right.
And so now they have a choice to make, and they go. So basically, through this story, Naomi and Ruth go back to Israel, and they are basically looking for a way for Ruth to remarry, or just a way to stay alive.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so we see obviously Ruth go into the fields, and a cool story of what the Old Testament commands. Basically, gleaning. Boaz. Yep. And so right now we've seen Boaz and Ruth meet, and Boaz is just this stellar guy that is very generous and is looking basically out for Ruth.
And he is a stellar guy. We mentioned this last episode that he is a worthy man, a Gibor Hayel, okay?
Yeah.
That's going to play into today. And so excellent job, recapping that kind of what's going on. He's somehow related to Naomi, or at least Naomi's husband. Sure. Somehow he's what's considered the kinsman redeemer.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And so there was this idea that in the land, to keep land in the family, to keep people united, because land equaled, some form of status or some sort of income. And so that's kind of where we're going to pick up the story is, Ruth comes back with this amazing haul and like a month's worth of grain and all that. And Naomi's like, what happened? Like, nobody gets that much gleaning,
Sure.
And so she tells her this story. And so we're going to pick up that story because Naomi kind of hatches this plan here. And so we're going to jump in. I think I'm just going to read all of chapter 3 because we're going to, and then we'll come back to some verses here and there. Sweet. So it says, then Naomi, her mother-in-law, said to her, so again, this is on the heels of this amazing generosity. All of this is happening, okay? Yeah. My daughter, should I not seek rest for you, that it may be well with you? All right, I lied. I'm going to stop there for a second. Okay. So we've seen this extraordinary kindness from Ruth, where Ruth is like, and Naomi tries to send her and Orpah back, like, no, go. Is from a practical standpoint, you're probably going to be better off going back to your homeland than coming to mine. Yep. Again, it just kind of gives a picture that culturally foreigners don't do as well in lands that aren't their own. That's why Naomi's going back, And I think, that's been true history of the world. Today. It's still like that in a lot of places, But Ruth makes that pledge. No, I will go with you. Your people be my people. Your God, my God. And basically pledges her life to her, So Naomi, on the heels of this, catching wind of what Boaz has done, says, my daughter, should I not seek rest for you that it may be well with you? Is not Boaz our relative with whose young women you were? See, he is winnowing barley tonight at the threshing floor. Wash yourself, therefore, and anoint yourself. Put on a cloak, go down to the threshing floor, and do not make for yourself known to the man until he has finished eating and drinking. When he lies down, observe the place where he lies, then go and uncover his feet and lie down, and he will tell you what to do. And she replied, all that you say, I will do. So Naomi has in mind, she's wanting Ruth to do something for Ruth's benefit.
Sure.
Now, as I understand it, when she's saying things like, hey, you need to change your clothes, brush your hair, whatever, there could have been a situation where sometimes people would display mourning, and we see this even still a little bit in Middle Eastern societies where, they may wear the sackcloth or they may wear the different things to show that they're still in mourning or what, all of that. And so it's very likely that she's still kind of in her mourning garb. And so basically what Naomi is saying is, hey, no, change your clothes and let people know you're not mourning anymore.
Yeah.
So there's a way in it's like you're signaling to the society, you're available.
Yeah.
Like you want to remarry.
Sure.
So this is some sort of a matchmaker plot, if you will.
Yeah.
Right. So put a little perfume on and and go out there and sashay. I don't know. I don't even know if that's the right word. but go out there to Boaz and hey, he's shown this kindness.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. Once again, we've been calling this Rescuing Ruth because we want to rescue this from our romantic notions. There's some stuff that doesn't necessarily. We can't read our worldview into this text, and we have to try to get back there, and it's hard. You're several centuries, millennia, right, removed from this story. It's hard to know exactly what's going on at the time, and we have so little data, that it's tough to kind of piece some of these things together. And so here's the thing. What I want to do is I do want to just make mention of this, and this to me, this is what makes the Bible fun. Okay, and here's what I've learned. I like to read from scholars because I have found that between the world of scholarship and just the everyday Christian is a huge chasm.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. But there's it's kind of like, I don't know, did your parents like have an attic or like your grandparents have an attic or something like that? It was just kind of cool to just go up there and see what's up there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
That's kind of how I view scholarship, right? It's like everyday real world stuff, like, the stuff that really matters. It's good to hang out here. Yeah. This is where life happens, okay? And the essentials to the gospel, believing that Jesus died for your sins, knowing that he lived the life. It's his life as a substitute for mine. Like, those are things we can understand. Sure. That's the everyday. That's the living room of the faith. But man, it's cool to go up to the attic sometimes and see what's up here. What are these? And I've found that the scholarly community, what's crazy is they almost, there's a lot of hidden treasures up there.
Yep.
And there's a lot of really cool things that are up there. And so one of the passions that I have is I like to poke my head up in the attic. What are you guys talking about? What are some things here? And granted, there are definitely boxes you could get lost in, right?
Spend the rest of your life,
Spend the rest of your life in this one box, and it's like, okay, that's that's ridiculous, right? Sure. I mean, I want it to have practical implications, but when you go up there, it's amazing because you might find an old photo album, and there's crazy Uncle Fred when he was my age, and wow, he really was a person,
Right. Yes.
And you see their life unfold, and you see things, and there's things that fill in the gaps. You might see their craziness or their zaniness. I love the movie, Christmas Vacation with Chevy Chase, and where he's like up there, he's stuck in the attic, because the family all left, and he went up there to hide some Christmas presents, finds presents from, years past or whatever, but he starts rolling the family film, he's up there, tears are coming down his cheek and stuff. And the thing of it is like, there's what I have found is, unfortunately, within Christianity, there's sometimes this massive disconnect between the practical everyday and the scholarly community. And I'm going to touch on something here. And now here's the thing. It's so easy, and I don't ever want to take my platform and say, I don't want anybody ever to say, well, Pastor Kris says, hopefully if I say something, I'm giving you something that's informed. But again, the thing of it is like, just like with anything, you can find scholars that say a lot of different things. So it is something you have to be careful with.
Right.
Right. And so you have to make sure, who am I going to, who am I researching from? Is this person even respected in their field?
Right.
And so I try to go with people who are credible, people who have put their really academic reputations on the line.
Yeah.
Someone who said, no, I am publishing this because I've done my homework. Like anybody can publish some obscure things,
Right.
And this is one of these details. So she goes and she tells, Naomi tells Ruth, and I'm going to say what I'm about to pose here does pose a little bit of a problem or conundrum, I guess, if you will. Okay. Because she says, go, when he lies down, observe the place where he lies, then go out, uncover his feet and lie down. That sounds so strange. Uncover his feet. Well, I mean, so what, when you read this, what comes to your mind?
Well, it's like, I mean, you're going to go to the field in the middle of the night,
right,
and find Boaz. It's like, that's weird.
It's weird, right?
It's like, why wouldn't you go during the day?
And so here's the deal. Threshing floor, okay, here's something that clues us in culturally to what's going on. Threshing floors were usually on top of a hill. Okay. They're usually on top of a hill because what you would do is you lay all that grain down and they would like beat the grain, right? Or pull they'd have like these like almost like boards with rocks and stuff, and they'd pull a donkey and just stomp it all down, because what would happen is that would separate the grain from the chaff, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so what would happen then is the grain would kind of fall down as you beat it and stuff like that. And then they would take these winnowing forks, and if there was a nice breeze, you'd throw the chaff up in the air. And the wind would carry the chaff away, but then the grain would remain on the threshing floor, and then you'd gather it up, sweep it up or whatnot. But Boaz is there, so they've been pressing and all this kind of stuff. Well, why is Boaz sleeping there?
Probably
protect against thieves and robbers.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Because if you just leave the threshing floor, right, that's your. So I mean, again, it kind of tells you, not everybody in Israel was well intentioned, and there were gangs, and there were people that would come through and steal what you got.
Especially in the day of Judges, right?
Absolutely, right. So that's the thing. Is like, why is Boaz up there? Well, he's up there. He's protecting his interest.
Yeah.
Right. So, and they'd have a feast and all that. Hey, it's harvest time, which also, what's really interesting, this actually coincides, the barley harvest coincides with what we know as the feast of Shavuot or Pentecost.
Oh.
So this is the time of year when this is happening.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So, it's just interesting. So it's interesting that we see this, this thing play out during one of the basically feasts of Israel.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's
so cool. We have then, Naomi says this thing about go and uncover his feet. Now, I just want to bring this up. I'm not saying, be very, very careful here, okay? I am not saying this is what this means. I'm saying this is a possibility. The scholars puzzle at this phrase, okay? Again, we're a couple thousand, 3,000, years removed from this story, and it's like, why? That seems like a bizarre command.
Right.
Now, on one level, I've seen some scholars say, well, he'd have been in a long tunic, and, if he's laying there on the threshing floor, well, if you uncover his feet or kind of maybe pull his tunic up, up to like mid-thigh or something like that, it's going to be a little drafty, the breeze will wake him up, and then he'll notice you're there. Okay, that's kind of one end, right?
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Uncover his feet, okay? And maybe Naomi's thinking that will stir him awake. But the thing we have to talk about is that feet was a euphemism in the Hebrew culture also for the genital region, okay? All right, whoop, 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 alarm, all right, get the kids out of the room, okay? All right, that'll be the last time we say that word, all right? There you go. And see, here's the deal. I knew this was going to make Travis turn all sorts of shades of red here, so that, I've been looking forward to this right now. And so here's the deal. So now, again, that poses some a lot more questions. Right? Like, what do you mean uncover his feet?
Right.
And I've got, if you're just listening, I got feet in quotation marks. Like, what does that mean? But here's the thing. I don't want to show just from Scripture.
Sure.
Another place where feet doesn't mean feet. So you went to Isaiah 7:20, right?
I did, yeah.
So Travis, go ahead and read Isaiah 7:20.
So in that day, the Lord will shave with a razor. That is
okay. Hold on a second. Okay. Shave with a razor. So this is actually a sign of judgment. Okay.
Okay.
You think of a good Jewish man who's got a nice burly beard or whatnot, and so God is saying, "I'm going to shave you."
Okay.
Now listen. Keep going.
Yeah. So that is hired beyond the river with the king of Assyria, the head and the hair of the feet, and it'll sweep away the beard also.
Right. Hair of the feet. I mean, is this Frodo Baggins? I mean, come on. You don't think of shaving the feet.
Uh-huh.
And so
not really.
Scholars are saying No way. No way does that. There's also something about this word uncovered, okay? Because we see in Genesis when, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, or, when Noah's lying down, and is that Ham? Ham goes in, right? And uncovers the nakedness of his father. There's something about that that's not right. It's not shameful. So now the phrase generally is uncover their nakedness. So we know that that's definitely some sort of sexual act or something like that. Here, you see this word uncover, and I've said, like when we see words that repeat themselves in the Old Testament, sometimes there's a theme or there's something that's trying to be connected. Now, this says uncover his feet. Now, again, scholars will say this is possible, but it's hard to reconcile because it's like, why are they painted in such, virtuous terms, right? Why would Ruth be, making this proposition or whatnot? I think there's room for us to say, if feet does not mean feet here, and I want to be, again, just very clear, scholars don't know, right? They don't really know. Like, some would say, yep, this means this, and some would say, no, it doesn't fit with the character. Oh, you can make that call. You can be informed on this and see what you think. It's possible that maybe it is the description of, just lift up his tunic a little bit, and the breeze will stir him, and he'll wake up and see you're there. But the other thing is again, we think about our cultural norms, and I think even in that day, of course, God did want sexual purity. I mean, of course he wanted that. He's wanted that ever since Adam and Eve. But is it possible that, is this a further test of if Ruth comes, here's a young woman who is a foreigner, that Boaz would have every opportunity to take advantage of. Yeah. He's already been nice to her, all this kind of stuff. And so if she's coming in and she's like, hey, I'm available. Yeah. What we'll see here is Boaz does not seize that opportunity. Which to me adds more to his virtue and character. And again, we'd say, well, yeah, but that makes Ruth seem really, maybe. At the same time, when we think of like just more of that patriarchal or just respecting your elders and stuff like that, she's doing what Naomi has kind of instructed her to do. And so it's a test on her end of like, maybe she agrees to it because maybe she really does know the kind of man that Boaz is. Yeah. Again, these are possibilities. I don't want someone to say, well, Pastor Kris says it's like this. I'm saying I don't know for sure, but it's something that we can't just look past. And you're gonna read that and go, man, uncover the feet. That's really weird. Well, we gave you a couple possibilities. I don't know what's meant by it for sure. We probably won't know until we get to heaven. We'll go ask Boaz himself. Dude, what was the whole feet thing, right? Just tell me what happened.
Or maybe don't tell me what happened.
So anyway, so here's the deal. So that's what Naomi has instructed Ruth to do. And so she went down to the threshing floor and did just as her mother-in-law had commanded her. And when Boaz had eaten and drunk, and his heart was merry, he went to lie down at the end of the heap of grain. Then she came softly, uncovered his feet, bum, bum, bum. And maybe it was just feet. We don't know. All right. And lay down. At midnight, the man was startled and turned over, and behold, a woman lay at his feet. Once again, startled. Like, why would he be startled? Right. I don't know. Yeah. Just kind of hanging out there. I'm sorry. Anyway. That's too far. All right. Or maybe it's just his feet, Maybe. And he said, who are you? Right? Of course, you're waking up, right? Sure. Who are you? And she answered, I am Ruth, your servant. Now listen to this. Spread your wings over your servant, for you are a redeemer. Yeah. If we think back to chapter 2, what has Boaz prayed over Ruth?
Yeah. That God would spread his wings over Ruth. Yeah. Bless her.
He prays a blessing over her, saying, hey, you bless you, make you find Yahweh that, you come and take refuge under his wings. Yep. We see that in 2 verse 12. And so what's really interesting here is Ruth gets bold. Yeah. Because she's like, that prayer you prayed? And this is how I see it. Sure. This is what I see. I see it almost like this. And here's the thing. Now she's going kind of beyond what Naomi said. Yeah. Because Naomi's like, hey, just wait for a response. He's like looking. And she's like kind of reminds him of like, hey, I'm letting you know. Once again, was she making a proposal of sorts? Again, the uncovering of the feet or whatnot, but she's basically just saying, hey, I'm available. Like I am here. You prayed for prosperity in my life, and you have the means to make that happen. Yeah.
So yeah, God's basically answering your prayer with you.
With you. Hey. And the thing of it is like, what's so radical about this is like, imagine in any city in America, a homeless woman off the streets going to the most powerful city official and saying, marry me. Mm-hmm. Remember you were nice to me the other day on the street and you said you prayed God would bless me? Well, guess what?
Yeah.
You're my answer to prayer.
That's bold.
It's bold.
Yeah.
It's very bold. It's incredible. So she says, for you are a redeemer. Now she's appealing to this whole kinsman redeemer idea. Mm-hmm. Now the crazy thing about it is if you do study this out, technically Boaz does not have to do this. And again, if you go down to the letter of the law, the strictness of the law, they don't necessarily fall under the strict interpretation. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But I want to say that I believe Boaz represents the spirit of the law.
Sure.
And it reminds me of like in Corinthians where Paul talks about the letter kills, but the spirit gives life.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's trying to make the letter of the law evil. Mm-hmm. I think what Paul is hinting at is like, you can't make enough rules for every single situation.
Yeah.
Wisdom goes after the heart of a situation. Yeah. And, it's really interesting, that I've been working part-time out at the airport and stuff. And one of the things I found so interesting is the procedures and the manuals and the line upon line upon line upon line upon line. And I've just realized, I'm like, even for all the things, like there's so many things out there that I'm like, no person can know all of this. Look at the tax code. The tax code has more words in it than the Bible.
It's crazy.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
How could anybody ever know that? And and I've just learned at this point in my life, you could never make enough rules for humanity.
Yeah.
You can't.
Sure.
You absolutely cannot make enough rules for humanity. And I think this is this whole thing about, because of Adam and Eve living out or choosing to live out of the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
Right.
That has actually, rather than the tree of life, which Proverbs tells us the tree of life is wisdom, you know? And so wisdom to me is the spirit. It's the essence of what God's heart for people is. But if you try and make a rule, and so it's really interesting because she's playing this Redeemer card. Mm-hmm. And if you follow the strict letter here, Boaz really doesn't have to do this.
Sure.
But let's see what he responds, right?
Yeah.
She says, for you are a redeemer. And he said, may you be blessed by the Lord, my daughter, and you have made this last kindness. It's interesting. Boaz interprets this as kindness, this hesed.
Yeah.
This covenantal love, right? You have made this last kindness greater than the first, and that you have not gone after young men, whether poor or rich. And now, my daughter, do not fear. I will do for you all that you ask. All my fellow townsmen know that you are a worthy woman.
Yeah. Super cool. So, yeah. So a worthy woman.
Yeah, jump in here.
Yeah, I was going to say, so, I mean, that sounds like Proverbs 31.
Ding, 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 ding. What does he want? No, nothing. But yes, you're right.
A worthy woman.
A worthy woman. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, Proverbs 31 is the virtuous woman. It's the worthy woman.
So talk about scripture, playing off scripture. I mean, I would venture a guess that, I mean, either Proverbs is making us think back to Ruth, or Ruth is making us think about Proverbs.
Right.
I mean, that whole list of a worthy woman in Proverbs 31.
Yeah, Proverbs 30, yeah.
And so to me, that's like scripture, like that's going so deep.
Absolutely.
And I mean, how easy is it to just blow past that and like, oh yeah, a worthy woman. And it's like, and you don't connect the dots.
Yeah.
And you miss out on some of that depth.
Well, and not only that, but even, it's interesting because, when I went over in Israel and spent, a month over there, I had, several Shabbats, because not just the weekly Shabbat, but then there was also feast Shabbats,
Yeah.
And we would go through and part of it was blessing the women. Mm. And we would go and actually read Proverbs 31.
Wow. Yeah.
And one of my favorite things was we did this thing where the men all turned to Proverbs 31 and we just kind of like popcorn, read a couple verses. Sure. The men would all do that, and then the ones who had their wives there would bless their wives. Yep. When I came home, I started doing this with my family. And so I speak a blessing over my wife, and I'd have my kids bless their mom and stuff, and we'd go to Proverbs 31. But what's interesting about Proverbs 31, it says, a woman of noble character, who can find?
Yeah.
That's how it starts. Like who can find? Like this is rare.
Sure.
But she's far more precious than rubies, you know, and you see the honor that's bestowed. And so, you know, just culturally that Jewish culture of honoring, you know, not that they always did it perfectly, you know, but it's there.
Sure.
Because I believe it captures the essence and the heart of God, right? And so you're right. And so when we read through that, we should be thinking about Ruth.
Sure.
We should be thinking about that. But here's what's interesting. That is Eshet Chayel, all right? In my Hebrew, it's probably Eshet Chayel. I don't know. But it's equal to Boaz's description.
Oh.
When we talked about last chapter, in chapter 2, that he was a worthy man. He was a Gibor, Hayel.
Yeah. Oh, man.
It's the inverse opposite equal. He's a worthy man. She's a worthy woman.
Yeah.
We are getting this throwback and this we're seeing this breakthrough in this time of darkness.
Oh, wow.
In this time of darkness, we're seeing this breakthrough. We're seeing what humanity could be if the two would honor each other.
Sure. Yeah.
If they would honor each other. He is looking out for her because he knows she has had this hesed and loyalty towards Naomi. He knows she's a worthy woman. She knows he's a worthy man, you know, and again, you know, the whole feet thing, whether or not, you know, the thing of it is like, if she knows he's a worthy man, she knows he's not going to take me up on this, even if we do give it that kind of interpretation, you
absolutely.
know? I mean, that's a possibility. Or, you know, but either way, she knows he's not going to take advantage of the situation.
Yeah.
You know? And he knows she's a worthy woman because she's not just out there desperately trying to get married.
Right. Yeah.
You're not just gone after the young men in the field like, oh, please marry me. You know, like now she's been bold in her proclamation.
Sure.
But she's going after a guy that's probably most likely a lot older than her, probably closer to Naomi's age, right? So, you just see all of this stuff come together. And I just love the book of Ruth because every so often we'll get descriptors or we'll get the heart of God or where God says, these are the people I want you to be.
Yeah.
And we do have whispers at times of people who embody those characteristics.
Sure. Yeah.
And we're seeing that here.
Wow.
So, you have any thoughts on that?
No, that's incredibly deep. And again, just the deepness that we took that verse and we went just
absolutely
a little deeper.
And so he says that she is a worthy woman. She's a worthy woman. Verse 12, and now it is true that I am a redeemer, yet there is a redeemer nearer than I. Remain tonight, and in the morning, if he will redeem you, good, let him do it. But if he is not willing to redeem you, then as the Lord lives, I will redeem you. Lie down until the morning. She lay at his feet until the morning, but arose, and before could recognize another. Now, verse 14 would be a possible thing where it's like, okay, lay at his feet. Like that's probably very likely at his feet.
Yeah.
And so that's where I think some scholars would be like, well, this can't mean that and stuff.
Right.
And so again, it might not mean that, but there are places, again, just peeking in the attic there, you know. So and it says, let it not be known that the woman came to the threshing floor. So he's looking at like protecting her honor once again. All right, make sure that, you know, we don't want rumors going around that, you know, that I'm taking advantage or she's, you know, going after this. And he said, bring the garment you are wearing and hold it out. So she held it and he measured out 6 measures of barley and put it on her. So he's giving her more food. Then she went into the city. And when she came to her mother-in-law, she said, how did you fare, my daughter? And she told her all that the man had done for her, saying, these 6 measures of barley he gave to me, for he said to me, you must not go back empty-handed to your mother-in-law. She replied, wait, my daughter, until you learn how the matter turns out. For the man will not rest, but will settle the matter today.
Yeah.
So Naomi's like, hey, one way or another, you getting hitched.
So cool.
Yeah.
I was going to say, and it's just, talking about the parallels between 2 and 3, we've seen over and over again where the author's like drawing us back to, and they like chapter 2 and 3 plays off of each other.
Yeah.
Just the literal, like, complexity of it.
Yeah.
Of really, it's a well-written story.
It really is.
And it blows my mind. Like, again, like how long ago was this?
Yeah.
That's like, 2,000, 3,000 years.
At least 3-ish thousand.
Something like that. Yeah. That is like, it's beautifully written. And it's crazy that it's just,
we're not done yet. We're not done yet. We got one more. We got one more chapter left. Yeah. So, Travis, you got any closing thoughts just of what we've seen in chapter 3?
No, again, it's just, I mean, the idea of in the day of Judges, like all the craziness, Canaanites are still kind of roaming around, causing all kinds of trouble. The Israelites
they're fighting with each other.
Yeah, I mean, idolatry is going on. Yeah. And again, it's just, I mean, it's a cool picture of God showing up and using Boaz, a worthy man, and Ruth, a worthy man or a woman, and making it, weaving those stories together.
Absolutely,
it's really cool.
And then again, that kind of sets us up for where we're going and where again, if we have this picture in mind,
right,
of humanity, redeemed humanity. The theme through here is redemption. It's redeeming. It's this idea of redeeming. And yes, it's in a very physical sense, but if we will let God redeem our humanity, what is possible?
Yeah.
That leads us to next week. So, all right. Hey, that's all we got for you. Like, subscribe, share, and we will see you next time.